Hi everyone, my name's Arsh, Ellahi. Hope you're well. It is Sunday, I think it's the 9th of April 2017. Hope you're well. Hope you had a great weekend. It's been a glorious day. Um, I'm here tonight with a good friend and business partner to the name of Neil McCoy Ward. Neil, are you online?
I am Arsh. Good evening, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Fantastic. Okay, and tonight we're going to be talking about something very simply, which is um, the 4 simple steps process to make £5,000 per calendar month recurring property income without owning a house in less than a year. So I'm hoping that you're on the right webinar. And the one thing I always say is that if you can, first of all, if you can let me know that you can hear us nice and loudly and clearly, just say a quick hello in the control panel box that you've got shown on your screen at the moment, just to let us know that you can hear us nice, loudly and clearly. That would be great. Okay, brilliant. So everyone's saying that they can hear us. Fantastic. Okay. So before we start, I want to say a quick thank you. Thank you so much for trusting Neil and I with your time this evening. Reason why I always say this at the start of the webinars is because time is the most precious commodity, and I guarantee that this is going to be the best investment that you can make. So in just under 90 minutes, what we're going to be talking about, you'll know how to use the simple 4-step property management system to make £5,000 a month recurring property income without owning a property, why landlords need your help now more than ever, and how to make an irresistible landlord offer, something that they can't say no to. And it really is as simple as that. So let's move on. Why should you listen to me? So first of all, I'm going to tell you that I'm a Amazon best-selling author of a book called Boom, Bust and Back Again. Been involved in property full-time, 17 years. So yeah, this year's the 17th year. So you could say I'm a bit of a property veteran who's earned his scars. I run a group of letting agencies for the last 8 years, which is now a franchisable model. In just under 2 years, I built a rent-to-rent portfolio that gives me a cash flow of just under £25,000 a month. And I'm also a property investor, a trainer, and a mentor that has helped hundreds of people that are hungry for change to achieve financial freedom. So that's enough about me. So I'm going to pass you over to Neil now. That's going to tell you a little bit about who he is and what he's done.
Thank you, Arsh. And again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Arsh and I have been working together for a couple of years now, I think 2 to 3 years, because in this industry of rent to rent, it's not always easy to sort of find the right people to network with. And Arsh and I got together one day, and we both found that we were very successful at this strategy. So we sort of got together, and that's how we became friends. Well, I actually built a portfolio of 37 houses, so similar to Arsh, within just 2 years. And I was also involved in property since 2005, so that's 12 years now. So 5 years less than Arsh, so 17 years, 12 years. And before I actually got into rent-to-rent full-time, I worked in the renewable energy industry. So I was a top salesperson within that industry, then went on to become a trainer, and etc. Now, the reason I actually left sales, which a lot of people are sort of surprised by, because I had such a large income. I was one of the top salespeople within the syndicate. I won an award within the UK for selling a certain renewable energy product. But the thing that was quite interesting was, when I left, people were so surprised that I was giving up this huge commissions and salary and the like. But what they didn't know was the reason why, and that's that my rent-to-rent business had enabled me to replace that income easily, and it was easily. It was only the first few months that it was challenging, but after that it was just absolutely easy to scale it, and it really is. And the other reason was I wanted more choice in my life. I won't sort of give you the full story now with what happened with myself and my wife, who is now my wife, luckily, but it was difficult. I was working non-stop, 6 days a week, and even on the Sunday I was spending half my day on the phone. and it really put a strain on our relationship. So this strategy has enabled me to have complete freedom, a great marriage, and financial freedom, really. So that's a good intro to myself and this strategy.
Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about a four-step property management system. And for those that, just so that we know who we've got online, can you give us a rough indication? What do you know about the strategy so far? So rent to rent, have we got people online that have a lot of knowledge about it? Have we got people online that have no knowledge about it? And there's no shame in admitting to that. So if you wouldn't mind just saying a quick, hi, yeah, yes, I've got some knowledge, or no, I haven't, because then we can tailor this webinar according to who we've got online. So quite a few people said either nothing or no knowledge. Well, no, that's not an issue. So Neil, can we pass this on to you? So what is rent to rent, and why is it such a powerful strategy?
Okay, great. Well, the great thing about rent to rent is that you become firstly an expert property manager. That's definitely what it did for me. I would say that I was an amateur landlord before I got into rent to rent, and now there isn't really much I don't know about property. And the great thing is the system gives the landlord everything they want from property as well. So it's a guaranteed passive income for them, which is what all landlords are after, plus a mountain of other must-have benefits that we'll talk about shortly. But for you, this system allows you to make a passive property income without owning a house. Now that's the great thing and the key thing to make a note of here. And if you haven't got your notepads and pens, I'd grab one really quickly, because we're going to be giving you so many nuggets here, you want to be writing this down. But the key thing is you don't own the house. The landlord still owns the house, but you control that house. And this system is known as rent to rent. So what is it then, this strategy? You manage the landlord's property. So it's very similar to a letting agent, except you are a property manager. You give the landlord a guaranteed income. So every month you guarantee the rent to him under a contract. And that landlord, he or she will be so happy with that, because they're getting a much better deal than they would with a letting agent. So what you do then is you then, now the key distinction here, which is really important, is you are not renting the property from the landlord on a tenancy agreement. You are working in partnership with the landlord as a manager. So that's the key thing to make a note of. Because if you were to rent it on a tenancy agreement and then rent out by the room, which is what we're going to do, that would be classed as subletting, which is a big sort of taboo no-no. So you don't want to fall into that trap. What you want to be doing is you want to be doing the management agreement with the landlord, and then you're going to rent out the property by the room. So you're basically turning the property into an unlicensed, or could be licensed, but that's outside the scope of this webinar, but you're turning the property into a house of multiple occupancy, unlicensed. It's got the landlord's consent, they are happy with it, and you stay under the radar. That's the great thing with the council, and you only have to fulfill the basic legal requirements that any landlord has to fulfill. So in this way, you'll make more monthly cash flow than the landlord would from a property that you don't even own. So why is it important then? Well, speed, low risk, no deposit required, recurring income, and it really is the no excuses way. So the speed that you can build your portfolio is just unbelievable. You can scale this up so quickly. And in my first month, I took on 4 houses, each cash flowing. Now, they weren't huge cash flowing properties, but they were cash flowing between 550 and say 750 approximately per month. So if you think within my first month, I did 4 of those, straight away, the speed in which I built this portfolio was unbelievable. There's very, very low risk for you, because even if everything that you can imagine went wrong, such as the property being taken back from you. And by the way, this has never happened to me, it's never happened to Arsh, it's never happened to our students. Even if that did happen to you, it's going to take that landlord months to get that property back from you, if they even can, because you've got a signed contract with them. So even if they did take that back, that's really your only risk there. But within those few months, you're going to have made that money back, that profit. So really, there isn't much risk with this strategy, which is why we like it so much. If you went out and bought a property today that you wanted to rent out, you're going to have to put down a big deposit. Thousands, tens of thousands of pounds. With this, there is no deposit. It's just an agreement, just like a letting agent would use. Recurring income every single month as well. It's great. So speed. We're not waiting on solicitors, we're not waiting on surveyors, on anything else. It's just fast. It's one agreement between you and the landlord. And they really can be done at the speed of a handshake. It's that simple. You sign an agreement, you shake hands, the deal is done. And you can really grow your portfolio at the speed of your own ambition. Now, notice what I'm saying there. I'm not saying to you, you need to be like Arsh and I and have big ambition to grow a huge portfolio. If you want to grow a small portfolio, you only want a few houses, you only want to make £2,000 or £3,000 a month cash flow, that's great. That's your goal, that's what you want to do, that's fine. If you want to make a larger income, 10,000 or more per month, again, we can help with that. That's your that's your goals, and it's what you want to do. This is what I love about it. There's no deposit required. You don't have to pay the landlord any deposit like you would if you were buying a property. And sometimes people say, well, if I was to rent a house tomorrow, I've got to pay a deposit. Yes, you would if you were to take on a tenancy agreement. But again, this isn't a tenancy agreement. It's the same. A letting agent wouldn't go to that landlord and pay them a deposit, would they? It's the same thing. We don't pay a deposit. And it is the no excuses way to invest in property. It's extremely low risk. Now, the house prices don't affect you at all. They could go up sky high, they could come crashing down. It doesn't make any difference to you because you have got a signed agreement with that landlord for however many years. So it's not going to affect you whatever happens. Interest rates as well don't affect you. And the success only requires your focus and your determination. Recurring income then. Now, I would not recommend that anybody just goes out and quit their job. And I hear this a lot, so does Arsh, where people say, I'm going to go full-time into property and I'm just going to quit my job. And we always say, well, hold on a second. Maybe don't just quit your job straight away. Let's get something going first. Let's build up a small sort of recurring income every month. So at least you've got some money there that you can replace your salary later on. But we never recommend that you just quit your job. But here's the great thing. Once you've got this strategy underway and you've got that money coming in every month and you can see it with your own eyes, that money coming in, you can then become your own boss. It's a great thing, especially if you don't like your boss. And I'm sure many of you will like your boss, but for those of you that don't like your boss, it's a great thing to finally just go in and say, thank you very much, but I'm going my own way now. Next slide, Ash. So here's the important thing. Why now? Why rent to rent right now? Well, there's never, ever been a better time than right now. And I'll tell you why as we go through. But firstly, there is a surging tenant demand. And I remember last year, I had a few voids in my property for the first time. And I was quite surprised by that. It was around the time when the whole Brexit thing was happening and we didn't know, some of our contracts dried up with sort of employees coming from Europe. There was a lot of sort of confusion around what was happening. But I can tell you that this year we cannot keep up with demand. for tenants. All of our properties are full. We're trying to take on some more properties at the moment. But again, it's the demand is so high that just keeping up with that is very difficult. And this is in the Midlands, where I am. You want to talk about London. You know, Arsh and I have got a client in London, and it's unbelievable. You try and go and do a viewing on a room, and it's gone by the time you get there. It's so difficult. So if you do it in, say, London, for example, you'll never have an empty room. So why now again? Falling supply of single-let properties. There's a big challenge going on at the moment for landlords, which many of you will know about. A big challenge with all the whole new tax changes. Rents are expected to increase by 20% over the next 5 years. Now that's a lot. That is a big increase. Surge in tenant demand then. Home ownership is actually at the lowest it's ever been in 30 years. 30 years. 25% of young people now in this country think that only inheritance will get them a house. And I know many people in this age group, and there's not many of them that actually own a house. So some of my friends that are sort of, let's say, in their 30s, not many of them own their own home, only a couple of them. Most people that I know rent a property. Bank of Mum and Dad as well, I don't know if you're aware, but it's now funding 30% of first-time buyers. So generation rent, which is the new sort of keyword that everyone's saying, it's growing, and it is definitely here to stay from the research that we've done. And here was an article, I think that was in The Guardian, and that just showed that how crazy it's getting in terms of owning property now. Here was another article, 1 in 10 young Britons would leave the UK to buy, and 1 in 10 would leave the UK to buy, as in to buy elsewhere, and 1/4 think only inheritance will get them a home. So again, this is another article. Britain will increasingly become a nation of renters as home ownership moves out of reach for a generation, and that's from David Miles, the well-known economist. Yeah, again, Bank of Mum and Dad hits record high, funding 1/3 of first-time buyers. 1/3. That's just unbelievable. We've never seen anything like this. It's unprecedented in this time period. So here's the other interesting thing. There's a falling supply, big time. The number of landlords planning to sell has doubled since the tax changes were announced by George Osborne. So I don't know if you've been following all of this, but the tax changes that have been announced have really burned landlords big time. I've had many of my landlords come in to speak to me, that with the rent-to-rent landlords, coming to speak to me because of all the challenges that have happened, and many of them have had to adapt. I have one large portfolio landlord, and they initially approached me and said, Neil, we might need to sell and all of this. Before I recommended them to see my accountant, and they restructured, went into a limited company, etc. But the changes that are coming in are just, they're not good for landlords, put it this way. So the main two things is that the profit of a rental property will instantly drop by 25%. So imagine, just to put this into context, that your boss said to you tomorrow, if you work a 9 to 5, sorry, but we're going to cut your wage by 25%. That is the scale of this, right, that everybody's feeling at the moment. And also, what's happening is, like many things, and again, we'll talk about the financial strategy of rent-to-rent another time, but the reason why many people do rent-to-rent into a limited company is it stops it from coming into their self-assessment, because it pushes you up into a higher tax bracket. Now, with landlords, the rental income with the whole changes is pushing landlords into a higher tax bracket. So you may have been into, let's say, a 20% or a 40% bracket before if you earn a lot of money. Now people can go even higher, into the highest rate of tax because of this. And with mortgage interest being, the relief being taken away as well, it's very, very difficult, and a lot of landlords have got a lot of uncertainty at the moment. So if we go to the next slide, I'll say how we can sort of take advantage of this. So the number of landlords planning to sell up has doubled since the buy-to-let crackdown, and it is a crackdown was announced, and experts warn that renters will suffer. And the reason for that is because when there is less supply, it's like anything. Why are antiques so valuable? Well, the reason they're valuable is because there's so few of them. They're limited. Now, what happens if it's something that isn't a luxury item like an antique, but it's something that is a base human need, which is on the bottom tier of even Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is sleep. Now, what happens when we talk about a fundamental human need, which is sleep, somewhere to live, and you take that supply and you cut it in half? Well, there's only one thing that's going to happen. It's going to create scarcity. It's going to create problems. And it's going to be a lot more difficult to rent for tenants, and it's going to be a lot more expensive, which is why people like myself, Arsh, some of our mentoring clients or students, we're locking in landlords for 5-year agreements. Arsh is doing 7-year agreements so that we can capitalize on this right now and make a fortune from it in the coming years. The assault on buy-to-let landlords is going to push 500,000 of them into a higher rate tax bracket, as industry warns of rent hikes and forced sales. And of course, what happens as well when more people are trying to sell the same sort of item? It's again simple economics. When you have an oversupply of something and everybody's trying to sell it, the prices come down as well. So that's another challenge that may happen at the moment. And you can approach landlords and say, don't worry about that because we've got a better offer for you. Next slide, Ash. Rents are rising. Private rents are set to rise by 20% in 5 years. Poorer households will be pushed out of the market. So these are all articles. This is not stuff that we're making up. We're pulling these articles from The Guardian, from The Times, from major newspapers. So here's the window of opportunity then. Rents are expected to rise by 20% over the next 5 years. Generation rent is surging and it's definitely here to stay. The tax changes that came into effect last week immediately take 25% of the profit from landlords' pockets, possibly more if they're pushed into a higher rate tax band. And there's never been a better time to become a rent-to-rent investor. So here's the simple 4-step system then. And it is simple. Find, control, furnish, and fill. And I'm going to hand over to Arsh for the next 5 minutes to go through this part.
Okay, so as Neil has clearly just outlined there, there's a window of opportunity right now for people like yourself who want to either get involved in property or want to take on this strategy or want to progress further up the property ladder for you to get involved in. Now, we've talked about the tax benefit, we've talked about the tax element where that's going to hurt people, we've talked about the surge in demand, how there's always going to be a need for people who require accommodation. And so regardless of how many HMOs are popping up around the country, there's always going to be a demand for it. And now the next thing we need to figure out is where do we find these landlords, how do we find them, where can we, and more importantly, how can we do a deal with them? So, as Neil clearly put it at the start, what we're acting as is a property manager. So, property manager as rent-to-rent, we're pretty much like the difference between us and a letting agency. Well, we're very similar in that respect. Difference being is that we guarantee the rent, whereas letting agents will only find the landlord a tenant, and in that respect, the landlord will still be picking up bills for stuff like maintenance fees, letting agents fees, etc., etc. So it's a better bet for a landlord to come to us because we're a long-term covenant, which means that we're a long-term bet. We're going to be taking a long-term agreement with the landlord, and the landlord's going to be pretty much having a hassle-free period for that for the 5 years or 7 years, as it may be. I always try and take on a 7-year period. So as a property manager, you're going to be looking for people and landlords who need your help. And they can generally fall into 2 distinct categories. Could be the accidental landlord, which we've talked about. It could also be a struggling landlord. Believe it or not, I always find as well, I'm going to throw a third one in, which I should have put into slides anyway. I always find when we talk about struggling landlords, it may not be financially. It could also be time management. And this is where I find that I win with a lot of landlords. So generally speaking, give you a quick example. Let me just quickly go through here. So, okay, we're going to be talking about them shortly, but I found that time poor landlords are people who have already got businesses themselves, may not be property orientated, and they find that they're trying to manage their properties in the evenings as well as maintain their full-time occupation or their other business interests. And I've dealt with doctors, solicitors, accountants, tax specialists, mortgage brokers, and these are guys that are already very busy in their daytime jobs or in their daytime businesses, and they just don't want the hassle. And owning property for them is a long-term pension pot. They love the thought of owning property, they hate the thought of managing property. And I find that I do really well when I find landlords like that. So not every landlord that you're going to meet is going to become an accidental landlord, or is going to be a desperate landlord, so to speak. Thought I'd just throw that out there. So what is an accidental landlord? Accidental landlord could have been a homeowner who bought a property and didn't sell it when they moved, and as a result they decided to transfer it to a buy-to-let mortgage and decided to try and make some cash flow off it that way. It could have also been that their property could have been in potential negative equity, and as a result they couldn't afford to sell it. Accidental landlords could also be that they have no desire to build a property portfolio, so they've probably bought 1 or 2 properties as almost like a nest egg for their children or grandchildren, and there's lots of those about. They may not keep informed of all the changes in the property landscape, and they do not consider themselves property investors. More than anything else, they want to let and forget, which is pretty much exactly what we all want. And when I always look at this strategy, when I'm putting together a proposal for a landlord, I always sit back and think, well, in actual fact, I'm a property investor myself. If someone like you came and approached me, what is it that I would want in order for me to be able to say, yes, okay, here's my property, here's the keys to my property. And that's how I always win, because I always come up with a solution to the problem. And this is where we need to understand that accidental landlords may not always fully understand the implications of new tax changes. Another nugget of gold for your irresistible offer. Now, you guys who are potentially going to go out and do this as a strategy, you need to make them aware of all this, because sometimes, like I said, the doctors, the dentists, etc., they don't keep up to date with all the new tax legislation. And what they actually find is that when they sit down with their property portfolio, they're actually having to top up the rent to make the mortgage payments. But because they've got such high salary paid businesses, etc., they don't really see it, and it doesn't really make a big difference to them because they're playing the long-term game. Now, what's a struggling landlord? Now, these are the guys that are over-ambitious landlords that are struggling with voids simply because they're trying to achieve too many things at once. And here's where you can help them, because you can save them time. You can instantly make their portfolio profitable for them. And you can help them grow their businesses comfortably, safely, and profitably. A struggling landlord's a great way to get into the market. If you can find a struggling landlord, there's loads of them about, because the way that I see it, that every time I see a property for let, every time I see a room to let, every time I see an advert for a property to let, for me, that is an opportunity. Because whilst that property is vacant, it means that the landlord is subsidising that mortgage if there's a mortgage in place. And I would say that a high percentage of properties in the UK still currently have a mortgage in place. Struggling landlords are also ambitious landlords that are being let down by their existing letting agency with voids, excessive fees, lots of maintenance as due to poor management. One landlord with a large portfolio may be able to might be all you need to hit your target of £5,000 a month cash flow. Neil will tell you shortly a story about one landlord that he met that gave you pretty much his whole portfolio, and as a result, that's how Neil got off to a flying start. Now, Neil, do you want to quickly talk about that?
Yeah, sure, I can do that, Arsh. Well, to cut the story short, to save half an hour here, I got a lead through, and I got this lead through writing a letter, which is one of the strategies that we teach. And from that letter, I had a phone call back, and the guy seemed very humble, very sort of relaxed, nice guy, and he wanted to meet on the Sunday morning. So I turn up on the Sunday morning, ready for this meeting, and he's there with his accountant, with his lawyer, and you know, and his brother, and all sorts there. And it was I was completely unprepared for this meeting. I mean, this guy was big time. He owns one of the largest, let's just call it a food company in the country, and he has a huge portfolio of houses in Coventry. So I didn't give the best first impression, and I didn't leave straight away with that deal. But what happened was, after I jumped through a few sort of hoops, we met up again. He gave me that one property, and I really quickly, within a week, turned that property around, and he really gave me the worst property you could ever imagine, because it had been a student house for many years. He hadn't touched it, he hadn't cleaned it, and it was absolutely filthy and in a bad state. And when he saw what we'd achieved in 7 to 10 days with this house, I mean, this was a masterpiece. It was beautiful. He then just said, take them all, basically. And he handed over a big proportion of his portfolio. So in that first month, we actually did four houses. And then we did more houses the next month. And we just grew it from there, really. So you only really need to find that one big landlord to get off to a flying start. And then once you've got that social proof, you've got that sort of portfolio going, you will literally be in a meeting with a landlord for 10 to 15 minutes, and I've had this happen to me twice, and the landlord will just throw you the keys and say, off you go then, get started, we'll take care of the legal stuff later. That's how crazy it gets. When you get good at this strategy.
Okay, brilliant. Cheers for that, Neil. So let's talk about you being the social butterfly. So where do you find the landlords that you need your help? Well, there's a couple of things. There's the accidental, the struggling landlords, which has the greatest potential. You've got the accidental landlords, which are an ocean of an opportunity. There's the struggling landlords, which could give you multiple properties, and it's now time to get out, have a good time, monetize your evening's entertainments, because you can find all these people in lots of places, such as networking meetings, and that's the key to it, because when a landlord's going to a networking meeting, they're going there for a specific reason. They could be going there for information. They could also be going there for help. They may have a problem that they're looking to solve, and this is where you come into it. By going to these landlord networking meetings, you'll put yourself out there. When we're talking about networking meetings, we're talking about potential property investor meetings. So you may meet other like-minded property investors. You may also go to landlord forum meetings, which is a great way of meeting landlords, because there there in that respect. They're there to try and find out about new legislation, new laws, and this is where you can tell them about what you're doing and how you can help them. Now, where do struggling landlords hang out? Because this is a common and a typical question that I get asked pretty much almost on a day-to-day basis. Is it online? Is it offline? So, like I said, property networking meetings are the perfect place to find new and experienced landlords. So how many property networking meetings are 30 to 60 minutes drive from your house, and how many are you going to be attending? Because the more network meetings you attend, the more opportunities you have to meet other investors and to listen out for complaints and frustrations. You know, all you need is that one landlord to pretty much be talking about how bad a job their letting agent has been doing, and as a result of that, that's pretty much what I would call a problem or a pain. I always talk about pain and motivation. You need to understand what their pain is before you can provide a solution to their problem. And I always say to everyone is that when you initially speak to a landlord, you never sell on the first meeting. The first meeting is always about rapport building. It's always talking about the problem, what's happened, why it's happened, where the problem occurred, and more importantly, not how about what you can do for it or how you can sell to them, but just understanding about what they want to achieve, why they want to achieve it. Because the second part is trust. All the work that you've done in the first part, when it comes to building the rapport and building it, will then form an alliance to whether that landlord gives you that property. Because the landlord's not going to give you their property unless they trust you. Because property, believe it or not, is one of the largest assets that someone will buy within their lifetime. And the landlord will only give you their property when they trust you and believe that you can manage it better than the letting agency and that you're a better bet than a normal traditional tenant, and also going to look after it better than an agency. Because consistency earns their trust. You have to be seen every month, and you have to always give value and share your experiences. Now, does everyone really understand that? And do you really believe that? Because you need to make sure that it's like, for argument's sake, when you're looking to buy below market value property, if you only put one advert out there, if you only put one leaflet out there, chances are you're not going to get that call. But if you put leaflet out in month 1, then you do it in month 2, month 3, and month 4, maybe month 5 and 6 as well. It's going to show the people that you're pitching to that you're not just a fly-by-night. You've got to be there. You've got to be, as they say, as Del Winton said, you've got to be in it to win it, and you've got to be there. You've got to be there every month to turn up, show up, and show these guys that you're actually serious about what you're doing. And when we talk about trust, you've got to have meaningful conversations. You've got to understand what's most important to them. Why are they in property? What got them involved in property? How long have they been involved in property? Understand a little bit about what their goals are. What is it they're looking to achieve? Do they want to be that landlord that's going to be sitting on the beach for the next 20 years? Do they want someone? Do they want a hands-free transaction? Is that what you can help with? You also want to understand what they do outside property. Going back to my scenarios, talking about doctors and dentists and stuff, I really like to know, is property their full-time occupation, or is this something of a bit of a sideline? When we say sideline, if it is a sideline, for me that's fantastic, because it shows that they love the thought of owning property, they hate the thought of managing it, they hate the thought of dealing with tenants, they hate the thought of dealing with letting agencies, they hate the thought of getting these large bills from letting agencies for unwanted maintenance or unwarranted maintenance. And so this is where I can really find a solution to their problem, because with rent-to-rent operators, you will now become problem solvers. You've got to give first. You have to give first. If you're a landlord that is struggling with voids, you need to offer them a solution. This demonstrates your expertise without selling. And you've got to keep following up, because the difference between your time and monetizing your time is the follow-up. The follow-up elevates you from business card to someone they remember, and the follow-up transforms a chance conversation into a relationship. Now you've got to think about this in a logical sense, because if you just talk about it and then you're waiting for them to call you, when do you ever know that they're going to call you back, or if they're ever going to call you back? Whereas if you follow up and say, guys, okay, we had a conversation last week. Okay, what's your thoughts on it? Or, you know, is there anything that I can help further with, and follow up through that way? Keep in contact with them, because every time you're in contact with them, they're going to tell you something new. They're going to tell you something that they didn't tell you in the previous meeting, which is going to pour out a little bit more pain. And as a result, you're going to start to understand how much pain they're really in, and create a solution for that problem. And here's how to win friends and to influence people.
Arsh, do you want me to jump on here?
Yeah, sure, Neil. Go on, far away.
Okay, because this is my specialty in terms of the sales process. Now, this was a book that was written quite a long time ago now, but it's still an incredible book. It's still a bestseller even today, millions of copies sold. And I highly recommend you grab a copy of this, called How to Win Friends and Influence People. So if you just make a note of that. Now, the 6 main ways within the book that's spoken about to make people like you. Number 1 is to be genuinely interested in other people. And notice the word genuinely. So we have a part of our brain, the reptilian brain, and this is the, let's just call it the BS detector. And it knows straight away if someone is not really interested in them, if they're just doing it. And let's use an example here. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone where they haven't really been interested, they've been looking in other directions, they're nodding their head, etc. Well, that's people that aren't genuinely interested, and your subconscious, your reptilian part of your brain picks that up like that, and it knows straight away that those people, you know, you're not in rapport with them. So it's important when you're with someone to really be with someone, such as the landlord. You've got to be genuinely interested. The second point is to smile when you first meet people. Now, this is a crucial thing that I teach in sales as well. You've got to smile all the time. If you don't smile, it's, again, reptilian brain response. It straight away puts you into this frame of like, what's going on here? Why is this person not smiling? Do I need to be worried about them, etc.? So it just lets that guard down. Number 3, the most beautiful thing a person can ever hear is their own name. So always remember people's names. Don't forget them. This is when people forget my name, or they say Nick or Nigel and things like that, I just think, you've got my name in front of you and you're still calling me the wrong name. It can be a bit insulting for some people. So always remember their name and use their name. But at the same time, don't be like the salesperson, the telesalesperson that uses the name every other word. Hi Neil, how are you today, Neil? Are you okay, yeah? Do you mind if I call you Neil? Neil, Neil, Neil. It drives me mad, so you just want to put it in gradually. Number 4, you've got to become an interesting conversationalist yourself. You need to be a good listener. Now, if you let other people talk and you're interested in their story, they're going to really like that about you. But again, you've got to do this naturally. And listening is a real skill. It took me a long time to develop this skill, because I used to be very much, let's get down to business, let's do the deal, etc. But now I've learned that just having that patience, not being in a rush all the time, having patience, being a good listener has enabled me to absolutely excel in this industry in rent to rent. Because when you listen, you're going to hear all the problems as well that landlord's going to share with you. But if you're just talking and talking and telling the landlord how great your product or service is, you don't know what their problems are. How can you deliver a service to a person that you don't know their problems? Instead, listen to those problems, write them down, and then deliver your service based on those problems. That's how you'll win. Number 5, the road to a person's heart is to talk about the things that he or she treasures the most. Now, again, a lot of salespeople get this massively wrong, where they'll go into a meeting, they've never met a person for the first time, and they'll start asking about children and are you married and all this. That's not necessarily the way to do it. You can talk about those things at a later time, so maybe after you've sort of got into rapport with a landlord, but you don't do that straight away right off the bat, because if someone said to me, oh, what's your wife's name? Oh, what's your children's name? All this, straight away I'd be a little bit wary of that. So maybe start with things such as hobbies. Let's say if you met a dentist or a doctor or someone, and you know the likelihood is they might play golf or something like that. So it's finding out what it is that they like doing and talking about those things. Number 6, always make the other person feel important. This is probably one of the most things I can pass over to you. If you make that landlord feel important and intelligent as well, they're just going to love you for it. So if you do these things on a consistent basis, then you will find landlords that like, trust, keyword here, and respect you. So Arsh, I'll pass back over to you.
Okay, so finding landlords online is pretty much straightforward, and you don't need to be a genius to do this. You can find struggling landlords just from the comfort of your own living room on places like Gumtree, Spare Room, and some of the other property portals. You can go to these sites and look for rooms to let, and you can instantly call up the landlord and give them your irresistible offer, because you know at that point that they've got something to offer. They've got accommodation to let. As a result of it being vacant, that means that they've got a void, which means that it's costing them money, which means that they're losing out on cash flow. Finding accidental landlords is an ocean of opportunity, and here's why. Because in the UK at present, we've got 17.5 million homeowners, of which 10% of those own a buy-to-let property. That's at least 10% of your friends, but not every landlord only owns one property. Chances are they may own 2 or 3. So it's more likely to be 20 to 30% of your friends currently own property. Going back to trust and go back to all the things that Neil spoke about previously, if there is an opportunity to deal with a person that you trust, or do a deal with an agent that you don't know, who do you reckon the landlord's going to deal with? Naturally, they're going to want to deal with a landlord. They're going to want to deal with someone they trust. So the question that I've got to pose is that, why haven't your friends told you that they invest in property? Probably for the same reason that you haven't told them. If you want to find accidental landlords that need your help, you need to get out there and see your friends and tell them exactly what you do, and in return tell them exactly how you can help. Telling them how you can help struggling landlords is a conversation, it's not selling, because these are people that already trust you. These are people that already know you. If they need your help, they'll let you know. If they know anyone who needs your help, they'll also let you know and also refer you. And the landlord find script. I help landlords with property problems such as voids and other tenants issues. This is such a short, simple and memorable phrase that if they can remember what you do, then they can recommend you to their friends. So you've got to put down what your USP is. What is your unique selling point? You help landlords with property problems, such as voids and other tenants issues. Now I'm going to pass it back over to Neil, who's going to talk to you just previously, very briefly, about something that we're going to be running shortly.
Okay, thank you, Arsh. So many of you will already know that Arsh and I run trainings. But what you may not know is that we don't run the trainings very often. We're down from running a few a year now to really only running 1 or 2 per year now. And that's because both Arsh and I have, our schedules have really ramped up, especially with the rent-to-rents and everything else, and the sales training and the speaking that we do. So we only really run 1 to 2 courses per year now. And it's been quite a long time since our last course. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to show you everything that we've been talking about tonight over a 2-day weekend. Now, I'm just looking at these dates. I think it's actually the 22nd and 23rd of April. It says there 23rd and 24th, but it's the 22nd and the 23rd of April. Is that correct, Arsh?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so just ignore those dates there. It's the 22nd and 23rd of April. Next slide. So we're going to show you on these 2 days a lot. I mean, we've only just scratched the surface today with what we've been talking about in the last hour. What we're going to show you is the fastest, cheapest, and most profitable way to set up your first rent-to-rent property. And you'll be learning from our mistakes, because I mean, both Arsh and I, we really, when we started in rent-to-rent, there wasn't many people to learn from. No one was really doing it. And we made a lot of mistakes, and we had to figure it out for ourselves. But the great thing is none of our students have to do that anymore, because we just teach exactly what we have learned. And that's what's enabled them to go on to be so successful. We'll just talk about a couple of things then. So you've got a cost guide for furnishing and refurbishing your next rent-to-rent portfolio, top 5 ways to find landlords. So we're going to be talking marketing, but we're also going to be talking sales. So I know we keep touching on this, but in terms of what I do as a sales trainer, many people regard me as one of the best in the world. Now, my expertise is very niche. I teach sales face-to-face, one-on-one. So for example, what you would do as a rent-to-rent person would fall into that category. And the other niche part is there has to be a high-ticket item. And again, a property is high-ticket. So it's very niche. And I actually deliver what I would normally charge thousands and thousands of pounds for. I actually deliver this on the second day of the course and teach you not only the marketing, but the conversion strategy, so that you're not like other rent-to-rent people that attend the courses and then they can't convert any landlords. What you're going to do is you're going to go away and you're going to convert 80% of the landlords if you follow what we teach you correctly. Let's go to the next slide. I mean, you can see what's here. Calculator. You get all of this stuff. Recording of the entire course, so you can always watch it back. All the slides. But the great thing is that that spreadsheet there, the calculator and spreadsheet, it puts you in a different league to anyone else. And if you go to the next slide, I think it's on there. We can talk about that. Okay, it's probably going to come later. But in terms of paperwork as well, you'll get all the contracts, so assured short-hold tenancy agreements, so whether you're doing students in a big property, whether you're doing it by the room for professionals or workers, you get all the contracts. You're going to get the management agreement that cost Arsh and I thousands of pounds to create. That's also going to be yours. You're going to get the guarantor contract. You're going to get all the tenant moving in documentation, so you don't have to go off and figure all this up for yourself. You're going to get a guide on how to furnish the property, where to buy the items from. So you don't need to figure all this out for yourself. This is like almost like a franchise, as it were. We're just going to give you everything so you can set it all up for yourself without paying any franchise fees. It's like someone giving you a franchise with this. The other great thing is you're going to get my marketing letters. So there's a lot of letters around, and I've reviewed them and I've seen them, and most of them are absolute garbage, really. So you're going to get my undiluted marketing letters that I wrote myself using copywriting, using the psychology, using sales, using marketing. Really simple letters which get you a very high response rate. You're not going to go off and pay £1,000 to a letting agent each time to get you a deal and then pay them a commission and all this. No, you're going to cut out the letting agent and you're going to go direct, and you're going to keep all the profit in the middle. You're going to get the letters for how to do it to the HMO register as well. So you're going to get all of this. And this is what the course is going to do for you. As long as you follow the course, you're going to replace your job salary in just 12 months. When you use our easy to master system, you'll find houses to manage at the touch of a button, as well as a crowd of tenants within minutes of your ad going live. And we're going to guide you through how to scale it as well from zero. It's like anything in life, you know, it's getting that first property is the challenging thing. But as soon as you get that first one, it gives you that buzz and that confidence, and then you go off and you get 4 or 5 in your first month. It can be that fast.
Okay, so what we're going to do, Neil, is we're going to keep moving on. So we're going to talk about this in a short while, because I'm conscious of the fact that we're running slightly short on time.
Okay, great.
So we're going to keep moving on, because I want to go through to step number 2. So we've got the bonus. We're gonna put it out there. And what we are going to put out is that yes, we're running the workshop. It's on the 22nd and 23rd. But for the first time ever, what we're doing is that for the first 20 buyers, we're going to do a 4-hour round table mastermind with myself and Neil in my office in Wolverhampton, where we're going to iron out any kinks that you may have implementing the system. So when you come to the mastermind so you'll have some feedback. If you're struggling to find landlords, at the end of the session, you'll have a workable solution that I've tested before you leave. So moving on to control number 2. We're talking, step number 2, which is control. So once you've found a landlord that needs your help, you only need to gain legal control of their property. So how do you make them an offer they can't refuse? First, you must need to understand their pain and what their motivation is. Obviously, going back to what we've spoke about previously this evening. So what is their pain and where is their motivation? We all do things to avoid pain or to achieve pleasure. So what is their pain point? What are they suffering with? Most importantly, what do they want? What is their pleasure? What do they want to achieve? Now, I took a property on 2 weeks ago from a landlord who had let it out for single let for a number of years, massive property, and he after the tenant left a bit of damage, and he called a builder in to put the work right. The landlord had a quote, I think, of £5,000 to do all the work. So he paid the builder a sum of money up front, and the builder ran away with the money. Unfortunately, the builder's nowhere to be seen, and as a result, the landlord doesn't have any further funds to spend on this property. So the property has been sat vacant for a number of months, which means that the landlord's now having to subsidise the mortgage every month. And as a result, it's sat empty because the property is in disrepair, because the builder took a boiler with him. Very nice of him. And as a result, he doesn't have the money to do the work. So where does he stand with this? Now, luckily for him, I approached him with what I would call my irresistible offer, and as a result, we've taken that property on for a 7-year period, where I will come in and do the works, and we've managed to negotiate a rent-free period. And the beautiful thing with rent-to-rent is that everything is subject now to negotiation. Now, going back to what Neil spoke about earlier, if you were to buy a property and you were to go off and get a mortgage, there is no negotiation on the terms and conditions. With rent-to-rent, everything is down to how you negotiate the deal. What you get in return is what you get from the negotiation. So what we would consider paying is something like voids, no time to manage a portfolio of properly. Motivation may be passive income, and the let and forget. They want to be sitting on that beach. That's what their dream is. So you need to be able to achieve their dream. Your irresistible offer has to be what your USP is. Your USP, your unique selling point, that you're going to give them a guaranteed property income. it's going to be a long-term let. There's not going to be any fees, no management fees, no let-only fees, and you're going to provide professional tenants only. And as a result of that, you're going to be looking after the property a lot better than any agent would be, because you're going to be putting a cleaner in the property weekly, so that the property is kept up to standard. It's in your best interest that that property is kept up to standard. As a result, that if it's not, you're going to struggle to let it yourself, which means that then you're going to start to be subsidising the property. As a result of cleaner going in, the property is going to be looked after and well kept, almost to like showroom condition, which inevitably is going to increase the value of the property over a period of time. The guaranteed income is what all landlords will be looking for, because, and how can you guarantee the rent? It's very simple, because you are a property expert, you know your market, you know what's going to let and what's not going to let. It's because you're treating landlords as you wish to be treated, because you only charge for the service you provide, not the service you say you will provide. The long-term let typically is between 5 and 7 years. And it gives both you and the landlord security and the ability to plan. Every time I take a property on, I make sure I build in a contingency, a cost of contingency. So if it doesn't if it doesn't go to plan, if it doesn't let as quickly as I can, we've got a cost in there to cover that. So no fees. Your profit is found in the difference between the rent you collect from the professional tenants and your costs, i.e. your costs will include the rent, council tax, water rate, electricity, gas, TV, broadband, potentially cleaner. So how does this work from a monetary point of view? So let's just imagine now that you've turned the property into a 5-bed HMO where each room is generating around £500 a month. Now, after you take out all the costs, which is the rent to landlord, utilities, and other the total cost will be around £1,850, giving you a profit around £650 per month. Now, all landlords would like to think that they can let their properties to professional tenants, and this is a great USP, because this is a great benefit to a landlord, because there are other tenants that are most likely to look after the house. It's also a great benefit for you, because they're likely to pay the rent and will only call you when there's a maintenance issue. A weekly cleaner helps attract professional tenants, because this is a weekly cleaner is your eyes and ears on the ground. So if there's a problem in the property, if someone's misusing the property for whatever reason, the cleaner is going to be the person that tells you, because they're the person that's going to probably visit the property the most. And this is how you know of any issues or problems before the tenants have told you. So why would a landlord say no to this? Because if a landlord says no, then you haven't fully understood his pain or motivation, or their pain and motivation. So you just need to ask what they are unhappy with, or what they want in addition to what you are offering. So for argument's sake, if you've offered £600 a month, is it that that isn't covering their mortgage? Could it be that they need £700 a month? Do you then need to put that into your calculator to see, does that work? Does it say yes or no? Most often it comes down to the rent that you're going to give them, because they're fixated with the fact that they want to achieve a certain figure. But we need to understand, does that figure suffice your requirements as well? One thing that I'm a big believer in is that even though it's rent to rent, etc., only take the property on if it's financially viable for you, financially beneficial for you. Because if not, you will technically become running around to literally pay the landlord. So, secret tip, it really is possible to negotiate a discount on the rent and have the landlord thank you for it. How's that possible? By showing the landlord what he is really earning. Because most landlords think that at £600 a month, he's earning £7,200 a year. Incorrect, because once you've taken off the management costs, once you've taken out the voids, once you've taken out the maintenance and everything that they've paid their year, does he really realise how much he's actually paid his letting agents? Does he really realise how much the voids are costing him? Does he really realise how much maintenance is costing him? He may actually, after calculating all these costs, realise that his portfolio is actually only probably treading water and probably breaking even. So there are lots of ways that you can save them money, as long as you can make sure that you put money in his pocket, more money in his pocket than what he's making today, who will want to do the deal. And there is no secret to that. So there you have it, guys. You've just seen in very simple 4-step process how easy it is to use the first 2 steps. You can learn the entire process in greater detail and get all the contracts and the paperwork that you need to get started the next day on the Rent to Rent Masterclass. So I'm going to be telling you just a little bit about this. So I'm going to be showing you how to find struggling and accidental landlords. On the day, we'll even be doing some role play as well. So we'll be getting quite a few of you to team up with other people, and one of you is going to be acting as the landlord, the other one's going to be acting as the renter. Tonight we only have time to cover the first 2 steps, but if you'd like to learn more about it, you need to come and spend a couple of days with Neil and I on the workshop that we're running on the 22nd and 23rd of April. We'll be showing you the fastest and cheapest way to set up, to get your first rent-to-rent property set up. We'll be showing you the cost guide for furnishing and refurbing your property so that you get a high finish at a low cost. We'll be showing you the top 5 ways to find landlords and how to elegantly persuade landlords to do business with you over anything else or doing nothing. How to find an endless supply of tenants so that you never have to worry about voids. How to use the rent-to-rent profits calculator so that it instantly shows your profit from each property and whether it's a deal that you want to take on. You'll be getting the recording of the entire course that you can always refer to and all the presentation slides. You'll get the ASTs, you'll get the management agreement, which will save you £1,000 in legal fees. You'll get the guarantor contracts, you'll get the tenant moving in forms, and even showing you how to finish your property guide. You'll get the marketing letters to write to the homeowners, you get the marketing letters to write to the landlords on the HMO registers, and you'll even get the persuasion sheet showing them exactly how much they're really making from their property portfolio as they're currently working. We'll be showing you how to replace your job salary in just 12 months when you use our easy to master rent-to-rent system. You'll find houses to manage at the touch of your button, as well as a crowd of tenants within minutes of your ad going live. We'll be showing you how to present your advert on places like Spare Room so that you'll easily be found by tenants nationwide. How to quickly jump from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 5 properties in a year just working at the weekend. And how to find landlords tomorrow on property portals such as like Rightmove, Spare Room and Gumtree using our proven letter templates. And how to make landlords that offer that they can't refuse. How to get them to say yes to your proposal every time, because it's a great deal for them and a profitable deal for you. And how to get your hands on our proven checklist. How to refurb, furnish and fill every property with the right tenants that pay on time and look after the property and never complain. When you know what to do, how to do it and the right order to do it in, then a complex process becomes a simple and quick process. And how to make your room stand out online when there's already so much competition. And how to get the tenants to call you first and that will actually pay extra to have your room over any other. And for the first time ever, we're actually offering the first 20 buyers tonight a 4-hour round table session with Neil and I in my office on the 18th of May. The mastermind is designed to iron out any kinks that you have implementing the system so that when you come to the mastermind with feedback, you'll find if you're struggling to find landlords, then at the end of the session you'll have a workable solution that you would have tested before you leave. Now, normally the price of something like this would be circa around $19.97 per delegate. But what we're going to do, we want to inspire other property investors with your success. We also want you to leave us with a testimonial. So what we've done is we've come up with a great opportunity for you. If you're willing to share your rent-to-rent success story with other people, you can save £1,000 on the course price, which means that we're actually offering you the workshop for $997 for one delegate for the 22nd and 23rd of April, and also including that, we're giving you the bonus day for free too. And all you've got to do to book on is follow that link, which is bit.ly r2r masterclass 22nd-23rd April 2017. And it really is as simple as that. And we're so confident that what we offer is 100% content with no further upsell, that we're actually going to give you a 100% money back guarantee. So if you buy the course today, you risk nothing because you're covered by a 100% money back guarantee. And here's how it works. If you attend the first day and you're not completely satisfied with the academic and practical how to set up rent-to-rent knowledge, then all you have to do is say so, and we'll give you your money back as a full refund. No questions asked, no hassles or forms to fill out, no problem at all. So all you've got to do is to book your seat at no risk to you because you're covered by a 100% money back guarantee. Click on the link below. And here's some of the other people that have attended previously. Now here's a young gentleman called to the name of JC. He attended our workshop just over 2 years ago, and in 1 year alone, in 2015, he managed to pull in 18 properties in the capital of the UK, London, in Croydon, giving him a cash flow of just over £15,000 a month. Sorry, I'll just quickly... So here's his journey to get his properties of just under £15,500 a month. And here's another person, Girish. So Girish is one of my personal colleagues, and he's been working since 2002 as a full-time consultant, pediatric consultant surgeon in Birmingham. He was on a very high salary of £120,000. He had a very stressful job, working 70 to 80 hours a week, and he lived for his weekends and his holidays. The problem with Girish's job is that if you make a mistake, it could cost someone's life. So after 28 years as a surgeon, he decided, after 28 years, he sat down and he realised that he had no assets, he had no passive income, and he felt trapped in the rat race. And his big reason why was that he wanted to build the first children's hospital in Mauritius, a vision that's much bigger than himself. And as a result of that, he decided that he has an aspirational salary, which gave him a very comfortable lifestyle, but was never going to give him the ability, the money, or the ability to build a hospital. So Girish found the right strategy and he quit his job within 3 months. And rent-to-rent was his strategy. Was quitting his job scary? Absolutely it was. But what made it a safe decision was that the recurring property income without owning a property. Within 3 months, Girish is now managing 3 properties, giving him 19 rooms, giving him a cash flow of £3,500 net cash flow, and also time freedom. And that property count is consistently going up. Now here's another young lady, Susie Bates. She made £865 a month cash flow just from 1 property. She's now got 4 properties in Leicester, netting her over £3,000 a month. Now you've got to ask yourself, are these guys any different to you? No, they're not. All they've done is that they've put their doubts aside for long enough to give this a try at no risk to them. They've achieved unbelievable results, and we've got hundreds of other people that we could talk about who've gone off and achieved exactly the same results. Now, imagine never having to do a day's work for anyone else for the rest of your life. No more boss, no more commuting, no more pressures, no more financial worries. And you can have a regular and reliable monthly income from working just 1 day a week. Now, all you've got to do to learn all these secrets, to no risk to you at all, is grab this half-price offer for $997 instead of $1995. To profit from the surge in tenant demand and to book your seat on 22nd and 23rd of April, all you've got to do is follow that link, which is R2R Masterclass 22nd-23rd April 2017. So one person has just said, Arsh, can you just copy that link into the box? And just so that I know that it actually works, I'll quickly just copy and paste it into Ah, yes, it does. Right. So what I'll do, I'll send that. I've just put that in all. Okay, brilliant. So, so there's a link. Sorry, I'm just quickly. So, okay, so what difference has rent to rent made to my life? So, I recently flew my mom to Dubai, where we stayed in a seven-star hotel before flying to Pakistan to visit family and also my charity. My rent to rent portfolio gives me the ability to do that because it pays me more than just under £25,000 a month for the luxuries in my life. My plan is to help as many landlords as possible through the difficult time ahead. I'm confident by the end of 2017, my rent-to-rent portfolio will give me in excess of £50,000 a month. You can do exactly the same when you use this simple system. Now, here's what it's done to Neil's life. At the end of last year, he spent 3 months a year in California with his wife. And I wouldn't, as Neil has put it, he wouldn't have had the time or the money to do that if he didn't have his property business. So he's currently earning over £26,000 a month cash flow, which pays for luxuries such as car or his dreams. It's also given him complete financial security, the mortgage on his house, which is completely paid. And you can do exactly the same. So there's a couple of questions which I'm going to quickly go through. So. Okay, so Nicholas says, okay, so when's the next rent to rent masterclass be? So Nicola, a couple of things that you can do. It's very rare that we offer it on a half price basis. So we haven't set the date for the next one yet, just purely because they're not run. They probably run every 3 months or every 4 months, which means that we only run them 3 or 4 times a year. One thing that you can do, if you wanted to, is that you can book yourself onto this place, and you can get the full recording of the workshop and also attend the next one. So not only are you going to get the recording, which means that you can get to watch at your leisure, you can also come on the follow-up day on the 18th of May. And also attend the next workshop as a result of you not attending the first workshop. So hopefully that helps. So Nick Cashmore's come in and says, hi gents, do you have managers to run your rent-to-rent HMOs? In a nutshell, yes we do. So Neil's got a young gentleman whose name's Joe, who is pretty much like his property manager. Because there's a couple of things that you can do, Nick. You can either work in your business or on your business, the way that I look at it. I prefer to work on my business. If I worked in my business, I wouldn't get the opportunity to work on it, which means that I wouldn't get the opportunity to go out, meet more landlords and pull in more properties. When you get to a certain level, you will want to distance yourself away from the properties and focus on getting more and more properties on board. So yes, over time that will work.
Yeah.
So Sun says, can I just buy the recording and all the documents? So yes, you can. Unfortunately, it is at the same price at £997. So if you can't attend the workshop for whatever reason, you will still get all the same contact and support. So one thing that I forgot to mention in the slides is that anyone that attends the rent-to-rent workshop also then gets follow-up support. So we've got Facebook forums. You know, me and Neil are both contactable by our students by phone, WhatsApp, etc. So if there's any questions or issues, or like for argument's sake, I got one of the guys that came on one of the last workshops. He called me. He goes, Arsh, he goes, I've got a landlord and he really wants to do a deal, but he goes, he wants to speak with you to see whether I can take his property on, or whether he's confident that I could take the property on. I said, yeah, sure, by all means, get him to call me. And I spoke to him, and I just built the confidence in him. So I actually helped him seal the deal. So we are very hands-on when it comes to offering a lot of the back-end support. So use this opportunity, because we are there to help you. We are there to try and get you your deals. And with regards to Girish, etc., I literally negotiated all his deals with him. So he went off and found the landlords. I didn't go to the meetings, but I told Girish what to say, how to say, etc. Then he came back with a load of questions. We answered them, and we made sure that the deals got sealed. So there's lots of bonuses that I haven't put in there, just purely because there's too many to mention. So I want to say thank you. We've still got quite a few. We've still got a bit of time. We've still got 10 minutes for questions. So if you want to ask questions, now's your opportunity. And in the meanwhile, whilst you're writing that, I want to say thank you on behalf of myself and Neil for taking the time to learn how you can make a recurring property income without buying a house. Hopefully you would have found that by using these secrets, you can build a property business that you too can decide if you want to quit your job. If you've got any more questions, you can contact me personally on my mobile, which mobile number listed below. My email address is also listed below. Feel free to contact me, and I'm always happy to help as and where possible. Okay, so Sen says that I've just booked the course, but I haven't received any form of confirmation. If you book the course, you should receive an email, and I can confirm I've received something from Bavnik. Okay, so if needs be, if you can send me an email. If you can send me an email, or in the box, if you put your phone number, if you can put your phone number in the box, and then if need be, I can call you after the webinar. Okay, so Nicholas says, where do you both invest? So Nicola, I'm based in Wolverhampton. Neil is based in Coventry. So you could say we're pretty much both. We're both Midlands based. I pretty much know where this question is going, Nicola, and Nicola's going to probably say, are you, okay, and she says, how long have you been investing for? Okay, so I've been investing for 17 years. Neil's been investing for 12 years. But believe me, when we talk about people who we've trained, we've taken people who had no knowledge about property whatsoever. Good example to that could be JC, which was a young lad that was based in Croydon that had done 18 deals in his first year. He had very limited knowledge on property. But what he did have, he had drive and ambition. And as a result of that, he found his stride in his negotiation. And as a result of that, most of his deals actually came from letting agents. Okay, so Gladys has asked a great question. So she put, hi, where's the venue of the training, please? It's actually based in Birmingham. So we're actually on one of the main streets. So we're on Broad Street in Birmingham. We're literally 5 minutes walk from New Street train station. So it's very accessible. So whether you're traveling from London or any of the locations, most trains travel to New Street in Birmingham, which is the main train station, and as a result, we're literally 5 minutes walk from there. So very, very, very easy to get to. So Nicola, question I've got to ask you is, where are you based? And I can kind of tell you whether we've trained people in that location. Are there any other questions that I've got to come through? Okay. Okay, so yeah, that has come through. So okay, it looks like I'll be seeing you on the 22nd, 23rd. If need be, if you just want the recording, etc., you can let me know well in advance. Okay. Okay, so Nicola says she's based in Birmingham. Right, interesting. So I've done deals in Birmingham, I've done deals in Erdington, I've done deals round towards Solihull, I've done deals round by the Birmingham City, Birmingham University, just down by Selly Oak, and all around that area there, massive student area around in that location. Erdington, Edgbaston, Harborne, all great locations. So yes, it is very, very doable in Birmingham. And the reason why I say that, Nicola, is because I know the area so well. There's a massive opportunity. And one thing I will say to you, Nicola, is there's an untapped market in Birmingham. The reason why I say that is because when we talk about accidental landlords, when we talk about landlords that are struggling on time, believe it or not, there's a massive Asian population in Birmingham that own property, which are taxi drivers, restaurant owners, etc. And what they do with their surplus cash is that they buy property. Problem that they've got is that once they've bought the property, they don't know how to maintain the property. Now, here's a little secret tip for you. If you can get into that market, or if you could get an inroad into that market just by finding one taxi owner or one taxi driver that owns a property, you can take his property off him. You will be sat in a pool of landlords that you won't know how many properties to take on. That's the honest answer, because every landlord, they all want a guaranteed rent. That's all they're interested in. Because if you have a look at the condition of the property that they let out, generally speaking, it won't be of the best of conditions. Sun has asked, Sun Carlberg has asked, do you source in Birmingham? Yes, we do. Yeah, I source all over the country. So I've got deals currently at the moment in Stoke. I've sourced, even though I was abroad last week, I'm just looking at my diary. I've sourced some deals in Stoke. I've got one in Hull. I've got one in Preston. Got a portfolio that we're going to be looking at in Hull again. So we're all over the country when we're sourcing property. And the beautiful thing with rent to rent is that even though you've negotiated a deal, you don't personally have to take that property on if you don't want to. You may decide that, okay, I love the thought of negotiating a deal, I don't want to manage it. You can then sell that on as a package deal, which then goes on to deal sourcing, etc. But the fact is that you've negotiated, you've found the landlord, you've understood their pain and motivation, you've packaged it according to their needs, you've made sure that it's going to make money, and you sell it on to someone else. So Vic has asked, so what type of property would be ideal for rent to rent? Naturally, Vic, it's going to be a minimum of 4 bedrooms. I prefer 5 or more bedrooms, but everyone is different. I know Neil prefers 2-story, 4-bedroom properties, which could be 3 bedrooms on the upstairs and 2 reception rooms on the downstairs. And you could convert one of those reception rooms into a bedroom. So if you can turn it into a minimum 4-bedroom HMO, great. I wouldn't suggest taking anything less than a 4-bed, but more rooms the better, because obviously once you've got to a certain point, your base costs are all covered by the first couple of rooms. So anything that you take in excess of that, if you can get a 5-bed, a 6-bed, an 8-bed, etc., you know, you're only in a much better scenario. Okay, so I'm just trying to think if there's any other questions. There's no other questions with regards to HMO or rent to rent at the moment. Son Colberg, if you could do me a small favour, if you could send me a quick email to my email address, and what I'll do, put your phone number and contact details in there. I'll touch base with you tomorrow, and then let's see what we can do in respect to that. Okay, so Neil, I've pretty much answered all the questions that's come through so far. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
I don't think so, Arsh. Does anybody online have any questions for me? I think would be the last thing that I'm gonna say. And while we're waiting for that, the question that I did want to answer was regarding how much time we sort of spend, and do we use a manager and things like that. I wouldn't say I'm quite unique in this respect. I'd say I'm quite typical of anyone that has a professional rent-to-rent business, in that I don't really spend more than a few hours per week on my business. This business we're talking about today, this rent-to-rent business, I don't spend more than a few hours per week on it at all. If I do, it's through choice. It's not because I need to, because everything is systemized in my business. I mean, being an entrepreneur myself, we've already touched on a few companies that I do. I have different companies across different industries. Anything from what we're talking about, from training to property to management to hospitality to retail to events and the like. So I've got to be smart with my businesses. I've got to know how to systemize. And that's what Arsh and I have applied to our rent-to-rent business. Everything is systemized. Even the management is systemized. There are systems in place which you get access to. So our property managers know exactly what advert to put out. It's already been typed up, it's already been written, the photos are done professionally once, one time only, when the house is dressed, and that's it, it's done forever. So everything is done, the tenants finding is systemized, the viewings is systemized, all the management, the refurbishments, everything is systemized, even in terms of the accounting side. Everything's accounted correctly, the bookkeeper does her bit, and the accountants do their, everything is done. So you don't really need to worry too much in terms of the overall day-to-day grind of the business. Your job really, once it's established as a professional business, which takes up to 6 months, I would say, to get it to that level. Once you reach that level, you can really step away and have your manager run that business for you.
Okay, so here's a great question for you, Neil, actually. So Nicola has asked, she goes, I want to travel for a year. Do you think this can be made possible with leveraging?
Well, I mean, Ash, how often am I even in the UK? You know, I'm hardly ever here, which is why of the rent-to-rent courses run a year, you know, I'm involved in a couple of them with Arsh, including this April coming up will be one that we're doing together, because I'm just never here. I'm always away either speaking or training, or I'm in California, or I'm in the Midwest in America, where we've got family there. I mean, this year we're going away again, Asia, Middle East. I'm always away somewhere, either for business or for a holiday. So the answer to the question is yes, definitely. Because what do you really need to do? You just need to check the accounts are being done properly. But if you've got a good accountant, they're going to do that for you. And then you set yourself up with a monthly salary. And then you can, if you set it up as a limited company, then you can take your dividends every few months or whatever. So yeah, the answer is yeah, definitely. This allows people to travel.
Okay, brilliant. So, a question that Joe has asked, she goes, "What do you need to what do you need to do to get a HMO license?" Now, probably a couple of questions here, Joe, which it could be quite an in-depth question. Is that how many rooms are you going to have over how many floors? Because there's the difference between a licensed and an unlicensed HMO. And the one thing I would always suggest is that before you take a property on, you understand whether it's going to be licensable or unlicensable HMO. If it's unlicensable, there's a certain set of rules. If it is licensable, there's another set of rules. And the one thing I would always suggest to you is that you check with your local council as to what they require, because even though there's national guidelines, there's also local guidelines. So I would always, like every council has got something called an amenity standards guide. I would always suggest that you go and check with your local council as to what their local requirement is before we comment on that, because we can only comment on a national basis. Like for argument's sake, a licensed HMO would require fire doors, thumb turn locks, overhead door closers, smoke seals, a grade A fire alarm, just to mention a couple of things. Whereas an unlicensed HMO would only require interlinked smoke detection system and wouldn't require the use of fire doors, which means, but it still would require thumb turn locks if there were locks. So there's a couple of things that you need to take into consideration there. But the best bit of advice I could ask, which I would say to you, is speak to your HMO officer in your local council, who will tell you what is required locally. So Nicola said, how much training did you guys do before you started out of interest? Shall I be honest, Nicola? I have never done any training full stop. I know that sounds bad, but believe it or not, I've always been of the mindset that you go out and do it. But remember, I started this when training wasn't available. So I started my property business in the year 2000, and back then there weren't any networking meetings, there weren't any landlord meetings, there weren't any webinars. And so, you know, you guys are in a very fortunate position where there is so much available information available to you at the click of your fingers. Would I suggest that you go off and do it yourself? It is possible, yes, and I'm not going to deny that. Would I suggest that you do? No, because there's going to be lots of things that you do and you may get wrong, which could be quite costly for you. So, don't take
Arsh, let me answer that question. The worst thing you can possibly do is try this on your own. Like the worst thing, because I would say this last year alone, I've helped at least 8 or 9 people out of a major issue they've got into, because they've done all the red flags. They've taken properties on tenancy agreements. They've done it all wrong legally. They've not, you know, there's so many pitfalls that you've got to avoid, and that's really what I see my job as, and same with Arsh, is to help you to avoid those things, because there it is a minefield if you don't know what you're doing. So I mean, for the sake of what we're talking about here, you know, you would pay the price of the course, you'd pay that just on having a solicitor create your agreement. And we're talking about 2 days worth a lot of money, because you're going to get sales training with me as well. You're going to get all the agreements, you're going to get all the legal documents, you're going to get a bonus day as well, where I don't know what Arsh charges for an hour, but my time is £500 to £1,000 an hour. So you're going to get that for 4 hours as well. It's a no-brainer. It really is, if you're serious about you know, replacing your income this year.
Okay, here's a question that Isaac's just asked. So actually, here's a couple of questions which relate to Sam. So Nicola and Isaac have both asked and said, would there be follow-up support following the course? So just so that you can know, guys, I'll tell you what I will do is I'll show you actually in our R2R. So we've got a private group specifically only for people who attend our workshops, and this is the group. So we've got 197 members in there, and here's some of the guys who are all asking questions, about different things. So there's Neil commented, there's other people looking at potential rent-to-rent deals using the HMO register. So we've got the group where you can go in, speak to different members, and also we log in every day and we answer some of the questions there. So there's a lot of follow-up support. Now, one thing that with Neil, what are we doing with regards to business partners?
Well, within the group, a lot of people sort of. Do you mean in terms of people partnering up for doing rent-to-rent as a business?
No, it's in respect. So Isaac has asked a question. Goes, so I want to bring a business partner. What can we do?
I'll let you handle that one.
How generous feeling?
I'll let you handle that one.
I'll tell you what we'll do, and this is completely off the cuff, is that for anyone only on this webinar tonight, if you decide to come along and you want to bring a business partner or a marital partner, you can bring them along for free. And that is only for people listening on this webinar live, and that is Sunday the 9th of April. So if you're listening to a recording of this, unfortunately it will not be applicable. Whereas if you're listening to it live, yes, you can bring a business partner for free. And that offer will expire by lunchtime tomorrow. So guys, so there you have it. I've just thrown something completely into the bag there for you. So hopefully that helps you. But yeah, on a serious note, I hope you really enjoyed it. If there are any other questions, feel free to either email me or get in contact with me. tonight, straight tomorrow. But on that note, I wish you all the very best of luck. I look forward to seeing quite a few of you that have already booked on. And Neil, is there anything else that you want to say before we sign off?
No, nothing else from me, Ash. Just want to say I'm amazed actually the amount of people that are still online. I think this is a new record actually. We've got over 70%, almost 80% of people that started at 8 o'clock are still online. So thank you. We obviously did something right this evening to keep you here for almost 2 hours. So thank you for your time. I hope it was valuable. And as Arsh said, you can contact Arsh, you can contact me if you need anything, and we're happy to help you. And really, we do want to help as many of you as possible to get to where we're at in life, where you've got that financial freedom, you haven't got to worry about money, you've got that freedom to do whatever you want with your life. Like, I mean, this weekend's been the most beautiful, sunny, hot weekend, and we're at the start of April. And I was sat in a cafe listening to people just yesterday complaining how, oh, I wish I could just do this every day. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what I do every day. And it is achievable when you create this. I'm not going to call it passive income, because you do have to do some work for it, and you always have to monitor your business like anything. You have to monitor it, you have to build it in the first place. But it's about as close to passive income as you can get once you really get started with this. So I think they're my final closing comments, and I just want to say thank you for sharing your time with us this evening.
Brilliant. But on that note, guys, I'd like to wish you all the very best. And if there are any questions, feel free to get in contact. But on that note, I'd like to say have a lovely rest of the evening. Good night and God bless. Bye-bye.